Well, Dr. Ross, it's a pleasure for you to be on Battle Ideas. I've been looking forward to this for a long time. Now, I know we don't have a lot of time before we have to get out here and do a session, but I wanted to ask you, my first question was for Hugh the scientist. I actually have a New York Times piece that was written, and I wanted to get your thoughts on this. Actually, Art Carroll sent this to me. A New York Times article says, why nothing is truly alive. Okay, and I just thought, once this email was sent to me, I just thought that this was truly absurd. Okay, scientific naturalists say that, the article goes on to say that why nothing is truly alive. It would be more of a service to synthetic biology if we might now be permitted to dismiss the idea that life itself is a scientific concept or a precise scientific concept. And I want to get your thoughts on this. So the article, the idea is a rock is every bit as alive, I guess, as a human being. Okay, so I wanted to get your thoughts on that.
Well, there's two perspectives on that. One is there's this movement within atheistic science that nothing creates everything.
Right.
But they have many different definitions of nothing, all of which are something. And I've written a long article on our website critiquing Lawrence Krauss's book where he says universe from nothing.
Okay.
And once I spoke in a church on everything you want to know about nothing, 9 different definitions that scientists have for nothing. But the whole idea, for example, is that you can get particles out of space-time quantum fluctuations, providing they go back into the quantum space-time fluctuations before you're able to detect them in a positive way. And quantum space-time fluctuations aren't nothing. It's like changing matter into energy. You can also take quantum space-time fluctuations and make some massive particles out of that. But then there's the other question, can you really get life from non-life?
Right.
And, one thing we know about the origin of life on planet Earth is that it happened very quickly. Because from the time of the late heavy bombardment, when Earth was transformed into almost a totally molten state, and to where you actually have abundant life present on Earth based on isotope signatures, it's literally 3.825 billion years ago is when we have this signature for life. But that's the first time that the planet is cool enough that you got water and rocks. So it happens in a geologic instant. But we also have isotope signatures that tell us the origin of life took place on planet Earth when Earth had no prebiotics. Now, if you've got no prebiotics, no building blocks, and no time, you've got no naturalistic model for the origin of life.
Right.
Then the other problem you've got is you run into an issue with the principles of cause and effect. The effects cannot be greater than the causes.
Yeah.
And so here you are, a human being.
Right.
You've got personality, you've
Right.
got consciousness, you've got life, you've got a mind, you've got a spirit. How can all that come from something which has no spirit, no mind, no life, no consciousness, no personality? The atheist is stuck with trying to figure out how do you get something greater from something that is lesser. And that's one thing we know about science. You never get the greater from the lesser.
I wanted to switch gears, and I thank you for that. I wanted to switch gears and talk to Hugh, the person, okay, not the scientist. Before my daughter was born, I was reading about 55 to 60 books per year. I'm just an avid reader. When I was much younger, I heard a quote by Charlie Jones that said, "You're going to be the same person you are today 5 years from now, except for 2 things: the people you meet and the books you read." And that sent me on a trajectory. I just wanted to read everything that I could find on philosophy, science, all types of disciplines. I wanted to know what your reading life is like.
Well, I don't read very many books.
Okay.
Occasionally I'll read a book. I spend a lot of time reading journals.
Okay.
And of course I spend a lot of time reading the Bible.
Okay.
But at least half a day, if not a full day a week, I devote to reading the scientific literature.
Nice.
So, and that helps me, in terms of the books I'm writing, the articles I write.
Nice.
And I actually enjoy it. I mean,
Well, I'm sure.
what I do for
I'm
fun.
sure you do. And my other question on the kind of the same vein would be, You have critics. I have critics. We all have critics on both sides of the aisle. And I wanted to ask you if there's some apologist out there that, you know, he's in the process, you know, he's going through his ministry, and he's trying to learn to develop thicker skin to kind of buffer these attacks. I wanted to see how you handle both, you know, critiques on both sides, and does one side sting a little bit more than the other?
Well, I am on the autistic spectrum, so when I do get attacked, it takes me about 2 hours to realize it.
Okay.
And that really helps
right?
when I'm doing debates, because I don't really feel the sting
yeah, if somebody's
until later.
insulting you, somebody has to say, "Hey, Hugh, somebody's insulting you."
Someone's got to point it out to me. I mean, I will eventually figure it out, but by that time the debate's all over. And people think I can't be hurt. The truth is, I do feel the pain, but it's delayed. But one thing that's helped me is to realize that when a non-Christian, for example, is being particularly aggressive and obnoxious, often what they're doing is they're role-playing the questions that they're going to get from their non-Christian friends with the same attitude and emotion they get from their non-Christian friends, because they want to see how I respond to that. And I've done this often enough to realize that's often a person that's right at the edge of making a commitment of their life to Jesus Christ.
Think so?
Right. But they're not going to make that commitment until they're confident that they can share their faith, defend their Christian faith with their peers. So often they often unconsciously will role play their unbelieving peers. And so I've recognized that I'm not talking to Joe, I'm talking to Joe's friends.
That's good.
And I need to help Joe to talk to his friends. And so it's so important that we give good reasons for the hope within us,
Yeah.
with gentleness, respect, and a clear conscience. So I think that's crucial for all of us to be able to model that in all circumstances.
I think a lot of times we forget the first part of that verse too, sanctifying the Lord God in our hearts,
Right.
and then being ready to give an answer
Right.
to the hope that is in us. What is your time management like? How do you juggle your schedule? Do you have people for that? Are you very good? Are you very disciplined with how you allocate your time?
I'm quite disciplined with my time. I always begin each day by running for 30 minutes.
Okay.
I get some good physical exercise. And I do have people that try to protect me. And I try to do that with all of our scholars.
Yeah.
Because I want our scholars to be able to devote their time to research, to writing, to speaking, and teaching. And so I want to make sure that a good 85%, if not 90% of our time is reserved for those purposes. Because if we're not doing enough research and writing, we won't have original material to share with our audiences. And if we're not doing enough speaking and teaching, we won't know what they need. And also, typically scientists and theologians are not very good at administrative tasks.
Right.
So it's better to find someone else to do those things.
Is your the models that you use, your scientific models that you present to universities, are they well received?
They are.
Yeah.
I mean, and university audiences, they're often quite surprised that we're employing the scientific method and we're building scientific models and that we're putting our scientific models to the test and trying to contrast our model with other models that are out there.
I think it's great because you present your model, I'm assuming, and you say, okay, here's our model, critique it.
We invite critique.
Yeah, invite it.
Because we're trying to improve our model. But I think what impresses audiences is that we actually make predictions of future scientific discoveries based on our biblical creation model. And just share with audiences, the proof of our Christian faith is how well our model does in terms of explaining the record of nature and in making predictions of future scientific discoveries.
Do you enjoy debates? Do you enjoy debating like on in a traditional forum? I mean, timekeeper and
No, I typically do not. I do them because I have to do them, but it's not my preference.
Yeah.
What I prefer, and often what I see with debates, is the two will talk past one another rather than to one another.
Okay.
So, for example, I'm doing a debate in a couple of weeks, but I said, okay, let's each make an opening statement, but then let's talk to one another like we're talking.
That's good.
Ask one another questions,
Yeah.
because then we're engaging.
Yeah. So you much more enjoy, I would assume, kind of lecturing and kind of a Q&A at the end of a lecture.
And particularly in open Q&A,
Open
I mean, you buy credibility when you take open questions from the floor.
That's my favorite part.
Yeah.
Is the Q&A. In every lecture I've ever heard, not just yours, but just I love the Q&A because that's really where the people are, you know. And if maybe you probably already addressed that in your talk, but they didn't hear it in their language, I guess, or they didn't get their mind around it. So you don't really enjoy debating one.
I don't enjoy the formal debate where you have a talk, a rebuttal, and a counter-rebuttal. Because if I watch those debates, it's like, okay, they talk past one another rather than to one another, and it's important to engage the audience and not just take written questions, but to take live questions.
Do you think that the literal the young Earth folks that believe in a literal 24-hour day period, do you think that poses greater problems for those of us that hold to an older view, like in terms of the academy?
Well, it does in the sense that they really see this as a crucial doctrinal point.
Okay.
Whereas, on the older spectrum, it's immaterial how old the Earth is or the universe is. And what's really crucial is who creates and how he creates. But I've met a number of young Earth creationist leaders who it's almost like their salvation depends
on it.
Right.
Would you say that those are kind of like fear tactics? I'll give you one that somebody posed to me personally, and they said, well, if you don't believe in the literal first chapter of Genesis, how are you going to believe in the last chapter of Revelation? And it almost poses a kind of a false dichotomy there.
Well, it does, and it misses a point. That, I tell people I believe God created in 6 literal days because the word yom in Hebrew that's translated day has 4 different literal definitions,
right.
One of which includes a long period of time.
Right.
And there is no Hebrew word for a long finite period of time except the word yom.
Right.
So here's the challenge. It's not enough to take the Bible literally. We must also take it consistently.
Nice.
Because Genesis will not contradict Romans or Revelation.
Or Hebrews.
Or Hebrews.
Yeah.
And my problem with the 24-hour day interpretation is it makes different books of the Bible contradict one another. Every book of the Bible is God's perfect truth, so they can't contradict. And I think that's why God gave us 66 books. So we can test our interpretations of one book against the other books.
Test everything and hold on to the good.
Very good.
Hugh Ross, Dr. Hugh Ross, thank you so much. Reasons to Believe, it's going to be at the bottom of the screen. Please check it out. Thank you so much.
Very welcome.